Oh, yes. I was just looking for that driving. Yeah. I'm thinking it's in here, but excuse me. Yes. Oh, St. Catherine Drexel. Yeah. She was born in the United States. Yeah. She was canonized in 2000. A woman. Oh my gosh, I didn't think they'd let women be saints. You would think that's only something that the Catholic. How are the Catholics? How's the Holy See? You still have your place there in the United Nations? When I look at the employees of the actual United Nations that are very aware, yes, of the international conventions, I'm thinking that I get to sue them for this new lawsuit, right, of refusing to enforce the territory of Guam's actual court order and then obstructing my right to have housing because the state of Washington. Now, oh, there is no driving in here. You would have thought it was in here. Nope. Dreyfus Affair. Drought, drill. Driving while intoxicated. Oh, they do have that in there. It'd be difficult to get arrested for that unless you were driving. Yes. And it's difficult to get my license when you don't enforce the laws of the United States. Now, it's not that big a lawsuit. Unless, of course, you're trying to entrap me so as to serve me. Yes. Then it's a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit because I'm homeless and you're obstructing my rights and you're refusing to remove your forgery and fraud. Yes. And you won't give me my sons and you have to keep fucking. Oh, oh, it's difficult to get arrested for that if you're not driving. Bring a valid form of ID. Thank you for telling me to do that. Now, there's what's known as the dollar. Yes, something that it's not that I'm attracted to the dollar. A lot of people have a lust for money. I'm one of these that thinks when I have trillions of dollars in the assets of other nations, I'm going to spend it the way that I want to, stimulating the world's economy. Now, as soon as you decide, that you're going to enforce fraud laws. Coach, I'm going to get my sons and then I'm going to reside in a five-star hotel so that I can go to breakfast the next morning and speak to attorneys that are going to finance these lawsuits because I'm the pauper. And I'm going to sue every state of the United States. See, you thought I was stupid, but I'm not. Now, I keep telling you, and you keep depriving me of the actual laws of the United States. Now, for every nation of the world that has any outside assets of their individual nations, just give me the employees of the international diplomacy of international community that has signed and ratified each of these international conventions that they say, well, I'm sorry, Ambassador. I'm taking your assets. I'm going to take your smartphone. In fact, I'll take your TV. I'll take I. It sounds funny, but there's known as the dollar diplomacy. Yes, it seeks to extend a nation's business interest in other countries through superior economic power. I thought I was very dollar oriented in my diplomacy. Understanding the liability of forgery laws, yes. Conspiracy laws, yes. Fraud laws, yes. The refusal to enforce foreign protection orders or foreign court orders, yes. The issuance of dissolution of marriages without any notice to myself as the respondent, and then 2 million emails. I thought I would get a lot of dollars Now, let's say I had some diplomacy. I sue each and every nation of the world that signed and ratified these international conventions because their diplomats refuse to obligate the United States. I sue the diplomats and the individual nations for their embassies, some other properties that they happen to own outside of their nations. It's difficult to get the property in the nation, isn't it? But how difficult is it to sue for property outside the nation? There's some sort of international agreement about putting liens or seizing the property of international. Something I could do as a citizen of the United States, where if I tried to say, well, I'm going to have to take the White House of another nation, yes, and they're like, no, you can't attach that. But I can attach any property outside the individual nations because of their liability. Well, I think it's an international agreement. Let's look at the treaties about seizing the assets. Look at that, the United Nations. Oh, what do they call that again, Hillary? When you put well, I know that we've seized the assets of various terrorist nations, and we've taken their bank accounts if it was outside their individual nation. Yeah, we've taken the assets of international diplomats. I would think, as an American citizen, I could actually take any asset of any nation outside of their. Sanctions. That's right. United Nations sanctions. Thank you, Hillary. I couldn't remember exactly how they do it. I'm just wanting to know all the property that is owned by any nation that signed and ratified these international conventions, where I have the legal right as a citizen of this nation, right, to sue for the assets outside of their nations. Now, this dollar diplomacy, yes. Let's say, for instance, I wanted to know the actual dollar ownership of every nation that had signed and ratified all these international conventions. I would think the United States has some knowledge of exactly where their dollars are at. You didn't just well, why don't we call all the signers and ratifiers of the international conventions that have the legal liability for allowing the United States to use fraud, forgery, and torture, yes, to obstruct the rights of citizens that want to drive? Yes. And then I'll ask them, how many dollars do you happen to have in personal ownership in your banking system or your individual government? Now, I can probably sue for the actual removal of the currency. It's not yours in the United States currency. Now, it's one of these, when you think about what right do other nations have to have the actual United States currency, why don't we call all the signers and ratifiers of these international agreements and ask them how much in U.S. currency do well, it actually belongs to the United States, though it is a currency of the world, right? They say it's the default currency. I would say it's my currency, and I'm going to take ownership of it from every nation of the world.